October 2023 11. 1. Choose any two of the following passages from the Quran. A. Briefly describe the main themes in each passage. 4. B. Briefly explain the importance of these themes in a Muslim's life today. 4. 1. 1. Surah 2.255. Allah. There is no God but He, the living, the self-subsisting, eternal. No slumber can seize him nor sleep. His are all things in the heavens and on earth. Who is there can intercede in his presence except as he permits? He knows what is before or after or behind them. Nor shall they compass any of his knowledge except as he wills. His throne extends over the heavens and the earth, and he feels no fatigue in guarding and preserving them, for he is the Most High, the Supreme. 2. Surah 112. 1. Say, He is Allah, the one and only. 2. Allah, the eternal, absolute. 3. He does not beget, nor is he begotten. 4. And there is none like him. 2. 3. Surah 1. 1. The name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. 2. Praise be. 2. 3. Surah 1. 1. The name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. 2. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. 3. Most gracious, most merciful. 4. Master of the day of judgment. 5. You we worship, and your aid we seek. 6. Show us the straight way. 7. The way of those to whom you have given your grace, not those who earn your anger, nor those who go astray. ANS 1a. Theme of this long verse of a Medinian surah, Al-Baqarah, is Tawhid. It outlines Allah's inimitable attributes that distinguish him from his creatures. The words Al-Hayyu Al-Qayyum, the ever-living and self-subsisting, refer to his creative and sustaining force behind his existence. Allah is free from human weaknesses and needs such as tiredness or sleep. His authority encompasses the entire universe, and he remains totally uninfluenced in establishing his writ over his created world. The word kursi signifies both his authority and knowledge about all his domain because he is its sole creator. Therefore, none of his creations can escape his knowledge in the remotest parts of the universe. It further emphasizes Allah's unique right of exercising his authority in a way that none can dare influence him. The passage ends with the words Huwal Aliyyu Al-Azim that represent his ultimate supremacy and exaltedness. The Quran repetitively mentions Allah's supreme status, such as, Allah be exalted, the true King, the Lord of the throne of grace. 23:116, Al-Mu'minun. 2a. This early Makkan surah was revealed in an answer to several queries of pagans and the Jews about Allah. The Jews wanted to compare the Quranic concept of Allah with that given in the Torah. Similarly, pagans asked about the ancestry of Allah. The Prophet awaited the divine guidance, and this surah was revealed. The surah sums up the absolute oneness of Allah by referring to his uniqueness in person, Tawhid fil Zat. Allah's name Al-Ahad summarizes his absolute oneness. His perfection and his sublime nature are expressed in the word Al-Samad that also implies his freedom from time and space, as well as any progeny. The surah categorically rejects the false belief of Allah having ancestors or descendants. Due to its conciseness, the Prophet declared, "By him in whose hand my life is, it is equal to 1/3 of the Quran." 3a. This is the opening surah of the Quran and is a summarized version of the entire Quran. Due to its importance, it is known by many other names. It is the only surah where Tasmiyah, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, is its first verse. The first 4 verses describe Allah as Lord of the worlds, both known and unknown to humans, his grace and mercy, and his overlordship of the Day of Judgment. The next 2 verses teach the believers to worship Allah alone and seek his help. The last 2 verses ask them to beg Allah to show them the straight path, designed by him. It is the path followed by those who were blessed by Allah, not the one that incurred his anger. The right path is contained in the rest of Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet. Another verse mentions it as, "And verily you guide humans to the right path." 42:52, Al-Shura 1b. The passage strengthens the belief of the Muslims in Tawhid in terms of Allah's oneness, uniqueness, majesty, and glory. So, it trains them to condemn shirk as humans are vulnerable to go astray under the influence of Satan. There is repetitive mention of Allah's knowledge and powers in order to instruct them to worship and depend on Him alone. The message of this verse frees the believers from fear of all other powers, visible and invisible. By believing in Allah's absolute powers, Muslims tend to develop His fear, and thus become more humble and submissive towards Him. Muslims usually recite this verse as an invocation for protection of their lives and belongings. The Prophet is reported to have said, "Whoever recites Ayatul Kursi after every obligatory prayer, nothing prevents him from entering paradise except death." Therefore, Muslims recite the Ayatul Kursi while leaving their valuables at or outside home. 2b. Surah Al-Ikhlas is so called because it purifies the most fundamental Islamic belief of Tawhid. It negates all false notions about Allah being the descendant or ascendant of anyone, as was believed by many misguided communities and the pagans of Mecca. It declares absolute oneness and uniqueness of Allah in an affirmative tone. Thus, it strengthens the belief of Muslims in Tawhid and keeps them from committing any form of shirk, especially shirk fil zat. For the same reason, the Prophet encouraged Muslims to recite this surah regularly in order to earn the reward of reciting 1/3 of the Quran. Once, Hazrat Anas bin Malik told him about his love for this surah. The Prophet replied, "Your love for it will admit you into paradise." There are blessings attached with Allah's names mentioned in this surah. A hadith highlights the importance of al-Samad as, any supplication using this grand divine name is sure to be granted. 3b. This surah is so important that it was revealed first in Makkah and then in Medina. Its recitation is mandatory in daily prayers, as declared by the Prophet. There is no prayer salat if a person fails to recite al-Fatiha in it. Sahihain, according to a hadith Qudsi, when al-Fatiha is recited sincerely and consciously as a supplication in salat, every word of it is received with grace and immediate acceptance by Allah. Therefore, children in all Muslim families are taught to learn this surah as part of their spiritual training. The Prophet called it, the mother of the book al-Kitab. According to another hadith, when the Imam finishes the surah, the Muqtadi's followers should say Ameen, may it be, as it coincides with the angels saying the same. Muslims, by reciting the surah, develop a strong hope of Allah's compassion. They also try to be pious because Allah is not only merciful but also master of the Day of Judgment. This reminds them of their accountability in the divine court of justice. 2a. Using the set passages you have studied, write about God's relationship with the created world. 10b. What do these passages teach Muslims about responsibility towards their environment? 4. A. The set passages are 1. Al-Fatiha, 2:21-22, Al-Baqarah, 96:1-5, Al-Alaq, 99, Al-Zilzal, and 114, Al-Nas. Surah Al-Fatiha presents a summary of Allah's relation with humankind. It begins with a praise of Allah who is Lord of all the worlds, full of utmost degree of mercy and master of the Day of Judgment. The surah then mentions that Allah alone is worthy of worship, and His help is to be sought in all matters. It teaches Muslims to beg Him for guiding them to the path of righteousness that guarantees Allah's pleasure. The right path, contained in the Quran and Hadith, is the way of living acceptable to Allah. Those communities who treaded this path were able to earn Allah's pleasure. Those who deviated from it became victims of His anger and wrath. The verses 21-22 of Surah Al-Baqarah give a description of Allah's love for humans, and His expectation from them to recognize Him as the only creator of all humans. Verse 21 states the chance of being righteous as a result of worshipping one Allah. This reminds humans to accept one Allah in order to get a chance of salvation from hell. Verse 22 enlists Allah's bounties in terms of the intimate relationship between the earth and the heavens. This relationship is aimed at providing means of survival to humans in both the worlds. Earth is the ultimate resting place for all after a day-long hectic life. Heaven or sky acts as a shield that provides shade and keeps Earth vibrant and productive for the survival and growth of humans. Rainfall comes from the sky to feed Earth to produce food essential for humans. The purpose of mentioning all these is to alert humans to identify their true Lord and avoid shirk. The passage 96:1-5, Al-Alaq, the first revelation of the Quran, elaborates the ways humans are dependent on Allah. It invites humans to recall to their minds how Allah created them from a humble origin, then matured them and enabled them to acquire knowledge. The passage refers to Allah's special blessing for humans in the form of enabling them to acquire knowledge. This unique ability of using the pen by humans makes them distinct from and superior to other creatures. The passage, therefore, begins with the command, "Read in the name of your Lord." The 5 verses concisely describe Allah's greatest blessings on humans, granting them the skills to acquire knowledge, and sending for them divine revelations for their guidance and success in both the worlds. These blessings have exclusively been bestowed on humans who need to acknowledge them and express their gratitude to Allah by obeying His code of conduct. Surah 99, Al-Zilzal, presents some of the horrifying scenes of the end of time. It states the unusual tremors the earth will experience with the start of the Day of Judgment that will lead to a series of several chaotic and upsetting events. These subsequent events include the earth revealing its hidden contents, much to the shock of all humans who had never imagined such scenes. This means the earth will bear witness to the performance of all humans in their worldly living. They will then be categorized according to their deeds. The surah finally states the immaculate divine justice by which all humans will be rewarded for the smallest of good or bad deeds. Surah 114, Al-Nas, is the concluding surah of the Quran. It was revealed with Surah 113 in the same context. Both are collectively called Al-Mu'awwadhatain, or the two protectors against evil forces. The surah begins in a reassuring tone by mentioning Allah's relation with humans in 3 capacities: Lord, King, and Allah of all mankind. It, therefore, commands Muslims to seek Allah's refuge against all evil forces, as He alone is capable of protecting them. It also tells about Satan's mode of misguiding humans by referring to his ability to inject evil ideas in their minds and then withdrawing temporarily to see the effect of his ugly mission. Satan's mission is to entice humans and keep them from obeying Allah, as is reminded by the Quran. Therefore, Muslims should always trust in Allah's supremacy against all evils, as He is the best protector. B. These passages guide humans to respect and conserve the environment around them. The whole environment, with its components, has been created with a purpose on one hand, and making it conducive for humans on the other. Allah wants humans to utilize His created world and natural resources for the collective welfare of humankind. Humans should avail the bounties of Allah in a positive way so that their actions reflect gratitude to Him. In order to do so, they should first acquire knowledge, because Allah made humans as the most beautiful and wise creature. We have indeed created man in the best of mold. 94:4, Al-Tin. They should also realize that the worldly living will end by the command of Allah, and all humans will stand accountable before Him on the Day of Judgment. That day the earth will stand witness for the activities of humankind on it. They should also be mindful of evil forces that urge humans to misuse the gifts of Allah. 3a. The Prophet, Pu, stopped at Hudaybiyah on his way to Mecca. Give an account of the events that took place here. 10b. In your opinion, what is the most important lesson that Muslims might learn from the events at Hudaybiyah? Give reasons to support your answer. 4. A. About a year after the Battle of the Trench, the Prophet, S.A., dreamt that he was entering the sacred mosque. The Quran states this dream in Surah Al-Fatih. Allah indeed fulfilled the vision for His messenger. You shall certainly enter the sacred mosque if Allah pleased in security, 48:27, Al-Fat H. Since Allah's messengers always see true dreams, the Prophet, S.A., asked his companions to prepare for the Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage. Accordingly, he set out with 1,400 companions for Makkah, all wearing the ihram, dress for Umrah Hajj, in due Qad 6 February 628 AD. All were perfectly unarmed except for a sheathed sword for self-defense and were carrying 70 camels for sacrifice because their sole aim was pilgrimage. The Quraysh, however, regarded this as a tactical move of the Prophet and decided to block their entry to Makkah. They moved out of Makkah with weapons. A cavalry was dispatched under Khalid bin Walid and Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl to stop Muslims. The Prophet, having no intention to fight, avoided the main route, and finally, halted at Al-Hudaybiyah, about a day's march from Makkah. The Quraysh sent Budayl bin Waraka, the chief of the Quza tribe, and then Urwa bin Marzud, son-in-law of Abu Sufyan, to warn the Prophet of the Qurayshite aim of fighting. Urwa, talking in a candid way, held the Prophet's beard repeatedly, on which Hazrat Mughira bin Shuba threatened him of dire consequences. Both Urwa and Budayl were quite impressed by the devotion and peaceful attire of Muslims. Then Hazrat Uthman was sent, as he had tribal protection of Banu Umayyah. He was detained and it was rumored that he had been killed. The Prophet, on this, took an oath from his followers, and the Quran refers to this in these words: Allah indeed was pleased with the believers when they swore allegiance to you under the tree, 48:18, Al-Fat H. The Prophet stood under a tree and extended his hand so that all his followers performed the bayat on his hand. This pledge is known as the Bayat-i-Rizwan, or the Oath of Good Pleasure. Soon Hazrat Uthman, R.A., returned and the Makkans sent their leaders for negotiations. Sohail bin Amr and some other tribal chiefs concluded the treaty written by Hazrat Ali. When Hazrat Ali began to write with the Tasmiyah, in the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate, Sohail bin Amr objected to it. He asked for writing the Makkan way of praising Allah, in your name, O Allah. The Prophet accepted it. Again, when Hazrat Ali wrote, Muhammad the Messenger of Allah, Sohail raised the objection that the pagans did not acknowledge Hazrat Muhammad as the Messenger of Allah. He insisted on writing Muhammad son of Abdullah. When the Prophet asked Hazrat Ali to change the wording, he expressed his inability of erasing the phrase, Messenger of Allah. The Prophet identified the nobility of Hazrat Ali's intention and got the wording changed himself. According to the treaty, a truce of 10 years was agreed. Both Muslims and Quraysh could make alliance with any tribe. Muslims were to return that year and come for pilgrimage the following year. If anyone escaped from Makkah to Medina, the Prophet was to send him back to Makkah, but the Quraysh were not bound to return any Muslim to Medina. The companions were not happy over the terms of the treaty, and Hazrat Umar expressed his concern rather loudly. The Prophet, however, reassured him of Allah's help. When the treaty was being written, Abu Jandal, one of the persecuted Muslims in Makkah, reached Hudaybiyah and requested the Prophet to protect him from the pagans. The Prophet, however, kept his verbal promise about the terms of the treaty, and sent him back. He prayed to Allah to help Abu Jandal. The Prophet, on the advice of Hazrat Salama, performed the rituals of Umrah at Hudaybiyah and sacrificed camels. Then he set out for Medina, and consoled his companions by promising them a victory in the long run. Soon, Allah sent the glad tiding, we indeed granted you a clear victory. 48:1 Al-Fat H. The Prophet recited this first of all to Hazrat Umar in order to raise his spirit. B. The treaty proved to be an important milestone in the history of Islam. The Prophet strengthened Islam by making several vital achievements after signing this treaty. He eliminated the Jewish threat by the conquest of Khaybar, and conveyed the message of Islam to several non-Muslim rulers within and beyond Arabia. Thus, he restricted all activities of the Quraysh against the growth of Islam. In fact, he cleverly built a belt of newly created Muslim states in the east and south of Makkah after the rulers of Bahrain, Oman, and neighboring smaller states had embraced Islam. The Quraysh could observe and understand the beneficial consequences of the treaty a bit late. Consequently, these added to their frustration and they decided to break the treaty. However, their blunder led to a greatest achievement of the Prophet when he conquered Makkah only after 2 years. Thus was fulfilled Allah's promise, Indeed Allah's help is always near. 2:214, Al-Baqarah. 4a. Some of the early Muslims migrated to Abyssinia. Give an account of the events of this migration. 10b. To what extent can this migration be considered similar to Muslim migrations today? Give reasons for your answer. 4. A. Persecutions and opposition by Quraysh got intensified from 610 to 615 AD. They targeted the slaves and the poor Muslims like Hazrat Bilal, Hazrat Zunaira, Hazrat Amr bin Yasir and his parents, and Hazrat Kabab bin al-Arat. At the same time, conversion of Hazrat Hamza further angered the Quraysh. They redoubled their opposition to Islam. The Prophet then received the divine permission, "Good is for those who do good in this world, and Allah's earth is spacious." 39:10, Al-Zumar. He allowed some of his followers to migrate to Abyssinia, an African state west of Arabia. The Prophet knew that Ashamar, who held the title of Najashi or the Negus, was a fair ruler of Abyssinia, Ethiopia. So, he allowed some of the Muslims to migrate to Abyssinia. Accordingly, in Rajab of the 5th year of prophethood, 615 AD, a group of 12 men and 4 women left Makkah. They included Hazrat Uthman and his wife Hazrat Ruqayya. The Prophet on this occasion remarked, "They are the first people to migrate in the cause of Allah after Ibrahim and Lot." This was the first migration or the first phase of migration to Abyssinia. These emigrants found a safe haven in Abyssinia under the just and kind rule of King Negus. In Ramadan of the same year, the Prophet received verses of Surah 53, Al-Najm, that he recited before a huge crowd by the Kaaba. All the pagans were moved by the tone of these verses, and they bowed down along with the Prophet. The rumor of their conversion reached Abyssinia, and the emigrants came back to Makkah. However, they were once again targeted by the Makkans who refused to believe in the Prophet. Shortly afterwards, a second batch of emigrants left Makkah, comprising 83 men and 19 women. This was the second migration to Abyssinia. These emigrants, too, found solace and comfort in Abyssinia, much to the dismay of the Quraysh. The Qurayshite chiefs got worried over this new development and, apprehending the possible growth of Islam, they decided to counter the move. 2 notable Makkans, Amr bin al-As and Abdullah bin Rubiya, were dispatched to influence the Negus against the Muslim emigrants. They carried rich bribes with them and complained to the military generals as well as the King Negus about the escape of their fellow Makkans. The emigrants, they blamed, had renounced their religion not for the sake of Christianity but for a new religion. The king summoned the emigrants, who included such notables as Hazrat Uthman, Hazrat Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib and Hazrat Ja'far bin Abu Talib, all with an influential background. Negus interviewed them about Islam, and Hazrat Ja'far bin Abu Talib, who led the Muslims, delivered a convincing speech before the Negus. He said, "O king, we were ignorant people, we worshipped idols, ate carrion, and committed all sorts of injustice. Brother wronged his brother, the strong exploited the weak. In these circumstances a noble man, Hazrat Muhammad, called us to Islam, taught us to renounce idol worship, be truthful, abstain from bloodshed, be good to others, avoid fornication, offer prayers, observe fasts and pay the charity. We abandoned all evil practices, and for this, were deemed guilty and our people turned against us." Then he recited the following verses of Surah Maryam. "And make mention of Mary in the book, when she withdrew from her people unto a place towards the east, and secluded herself from them, and we sent unto her our Spirit, he said, I am only a messenger from your Lord, that I may give you the news of the birth of a holy son." 19:16-21, Maryam. The Negus and his generals were deeply moved, and they felt their hearts softened by the recitation. Then Negus said, "This has truly come from the same source as that which Jesus brought." Then he turned to the Makkan envoys and said, "You may go, for by Allah, I will not deliver them unto you, they shall not be betrayed." They, however, returned to the king the following morning and persuaded him to ask the emigrants their beliefs about Jesus. The king summoned the Muslims again and asked them about Jesus Christ. Hazrat Ja'far replied, "Jesus is the slave of Allah and his messenger and his spirit and his word which he cast unto Mary the Blessed Virgin." The Negus took up a piece of wood and said, Jesus, the Son of Mary, exceeds not what you have said by the length of this stick. He allowed Muslims to live there and sent Maccans back. B. Muslims around the world keep facing persecutions even today. They become victim of religious intolerance in countries like India, Myanmar, and Syria. Facing direct threat to their lives, they seek political asylum in many Western countries like the UK, Canada, and USA. They request protection on humanitarian grounds, and start a new phase of life in such non-Muslim countries. This makes their migration similar to the migration to Abyssinia. Many Muslims, similarly, migrate to other Muslim states to live more comfortably among fellow Muslims. Rohingya Muslims from Myanmar have migrated to Bangladesh, while Syrian Muslims to Turkey and the Gulf states. They migrate with a firm belief in God's support for them. 5a. Write about the lives of the companions Khalid ibn Walid and Zayd ibn Haritha during the lifetime of the Prophet, Pu. 10. b. What lessons might Muslims learn about family relationships from Zayd ibn Haritha's life with the Prophet, Pu. 4. Ans. A. Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid. His name was Abu Sulayman Khalid bin al-Walid bin al-Mughira al-Maksumi. He was born in 592 AD and belonged to Banu Makhzum. He remained hostile to Islam till the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. He played vital role in Uhud by attacking Muslims from the rear after 36 of the 50 archers vacated their position on the narrow passage. Seeing this, the fleeing Makkan army also returned and Muslims were defeated. During the Battle of Kandak, he and Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl located the point where it was a bit narrow. He was sent with a Makkan expedition to intercept the Muslims before the signing of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. In May 629 AD 7 AH, he set for Medina with the intention of conversion to Islam. On his way, he met Ammar bin Ulaz and Uthman bin Talha. All the three embraced Islam together. He took command of the Muslim army in the Battle of Mu'tah after the martyrdom of three main commanders. With 3,000 Muslims against 100,000 Romans, he very cleverly retreated, deceiving the Romans and saving the remaining Muslim army. He is reported to have broken 9 swords in the battle, and the Prophet gave him the title Sayfullah, Sword of Allah. Hazrat Khalid himself stated, "On the day of Mu'tah, 9 swords were broken in my hand and nothing was left in my hand except a Yemenite sword of mine." Sahih Bukhari, on the conquest of Mecca, he led one of the 4 columns entering the city and skillfully repulsed a band of Maccans that had attacked his column. Later, he was sent to Banu Jardama to disarm them and they embraced Islam. He was commander of the cavalry in the Battle of Hunain. He also participated in the Siege of Taif and the Tabuk expedition. He was sent against Uqaydir, the Christian prince of Jumat ul Jandal, and some other tribal chiefs during the expedition. All of them surrendered to Islam. During the last days of the Prophet, he led an expedition to Jumat ul Jandal and captured its fort in March 631 AD. He participated in the farewell Hajj in 631 AD. He was given 3 hairs of the Holy Prophet as a holy relic. He attributed his future victories to these holy hairs. He kept them in his helmet while fighting the battles. Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha. Zayd was born around 576 to 581 AD to Haritha bin Sharahil and Suda bint Ta'alaba. His father was from the Udra branch of the Kalb tribe in the Najd area, Central Arabia. He was kidnapped and sold as a slave at a young age. His family searched him but couldn't find him. He was purchased by Hakim bin Hizam, who gave him to his aunt Hazrat Khadijah. After Khadija's marriage, Zayd was presented to the Prophet by her. Soon Zayd began to be honored by the Prophet's fatherly affection, who gave him the title Al-Habib, the Beloved One. After some years, Zayd's relatives recognized him near the Kaaba during the pilgrimage. They approached him but he refused to go back. His father and uncle came to Mecca and offered the Prophet any ransom for freeing Zayd. Zayd was called and he recognized his relatives, but he refused again. The Prophet took Zayd to the steps of the Kaaba and agreed to a legal contract that was publicly announced. The contract said, "Witness that Zayd becomes my son with mutual rights of inheritance." Zayd's father and uncle returned to their home. Thus Zayd would now be called as Zayd bin Muhammad as per the Arab custom of those days. When the Prophet formally declared prophethood in 610, Zayd was the fourth convert to Islam. Zayd was married to Ayman, Baraka. Zayd accompanied the Prophet in 620 when the Prophet visited Al-Taif. He continuously protected the Prophet from the stones pelted at him by the people of the town. After the Prophet's migration to Medina, he was sent to Mecca to bring the Prophet's wives, and his daughters Kulthum and Fatima. Zayd also married the Prophet's cousin, Zainab bint Jahsh in 625 AD. The marriage ended in divorce after 1 year. The Prophet then received this revelation. Then when Zayd had dissolved his marriage with her, Zainab, with the necessary formalities, we joined her in marriage to you. 33:37, Al-Azab, the Prophet, therefore, married Hazrat Zainab. Zayd participated in the battles of Badr, Uhud and Khandak, and was also present on the signing of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. In 8 a little before the conquest of Mecca, the Prophet sent an army against the Romans. Zayd was martyred in this battle. B. Zayd bin Haritha's relation with the Prophet teaches Muslims that in Islam it is not just immediate or blood relations that are important. Instead, it guides Muslims to look after other people who have become family members as well. It negates discrimination between the relatives and the adopted children. A hadith of the Prophet declares, "The whole humankind is a family of Allah." Thus, all those living in a family should be treated equally regardless of the social background of the adopted children. Though according to Quran, these children are not entitled to have any share in the inheritance, they may be given equal opportunity of acquiring education and excelling in practical life. The Prophet first appointed Zayd as the commander of army in the Battle of Mu'tah, and then his son Usama in the expedition to Syria when he was quite young.